Today's video, we'll look into a scenario in which Sweden forms an empire. They had a big empire in the Middle Ages. Yes, not Middle Ages. That would be off by a few hundred years. Maybe the 1800s or 1700s, and even 1500s. When they had all of Finland, basically, parts of Norway, parts of Germany, parts of the Baltics and stuff. Well, now let's get in with the invasion of Norway kicking off today's video. Why the invasion of Norway? Because Norway. With them cutting them off up here. And then they move in and start seizing Oslo. Quickly they move forces down, creating an encirclement north of Oslo and then coming down to the side. With them advancing along here and more as this battle still rages on. With Norway holding strong in Oslo. The rest of the country is falling, and then Oslo falls. And well, they end up surrendering. And after the surrender, they end up being fully annexed by Sweden. And well, they start getting ready for a naval invasion of Denmark. And after a day or two, they officially declare the invasion of Denmark. Why Denmark, you may be asking? Because they can. And well, they quickly invade Denmark. And it goes really fast, as they take Copenhagen right away. And the small island. Then they annex Denmark. Why annex Denmark? Because they can. And while the three Baltics unite, you may be asking why. Because they fear the Swedish Empire. Although they don't realize that nothing is going to change because of that. And while they invade Finland very fast. And while they come in from the north. And they advance south rapidly as they land here. And use this landing point as a point to connect to this part of the front. And then they use that to move into Helsinki. And well, they annex it. Because why not? And also, Russia's evil. Actually, that's Western propaganda. Or, actually, that's Western truth. Who knows? How would you know? And well, then they decide it's time to annex the Baltics. And the Baltics fight back, but it leads to no pushbacks. Just leads to a slower front. And well, as the Estonian part gets taken over. Oh, I just realized I'm invading Russia. With Russia demanding the withdrawal, because they accidentally crossed the border. And they agree to. And then they annex this nation. And now for the War of Expansion. As the Swedish War of Expansion is a war against Germany and Poland. And well, they quickly advance in from two fronts. The two fronts being the north from Denmark and the north from Estonia. As they take Hamburg over. And from here they march in and they quickly manage to take Warsaw. And from that they quickly consolidate and they start taking parts of the coast. They're making another landing which connects to Germany, quickly managing to take Berlin. And while Poland being forced into surrender. Germany not yet. But Sweden decides to dive down and take over the Rhineland. And with this, both countries surrender, and they manage to get a peace treaty. So let's look at the peace. And in northern Germany, all of Poland's coast, sadly. And basically all of Germany's coast, sadly. And then they decide to provoke the Russian bear. As they invade Kaliningrad. Yes, we'll give Crimea back to Ukraine for today's video because, well, yeah. Just for badness. And well, Russia storms into Finland, like they did 200 years ago. And they take all of the southern part of it over. And then in the Baltics, they march in. But not long after, the Swedish invasion manages to cut these forces off. But these forces pull out of Finland and use the sea to get out, but most of them don't escape. And well, quickly, their first front is here. And then their second front is along Finland, and they come out of here, and they cross here, and quickly they take over the Kola Peninsula as they manage to encircle St. Petersburg. And well, yeah, it just continues. And then they take St. Petersburg. Russia still doesn't surrender, and the spearheads launch towards Moscow. They manage to take the city, but a surrender doesn't happen as Britain comes to the defense. And how exactly do they do this? With British troops and Russian troops managing to push back into the city. And before they can get cut off, these forces retreat to here. And well, they land in Norway, southern Norway, and quickly move towards taking Oslo. And then they take more territory as Russia starts a counter-offensive. Being slow as they manage to hold on to these lands. With London being destroyed by a bombing campaign that started. And well, as they establish air and naval domination, they land here. They land here. And they use this to move in and take London and the area surrounding. This leaves to Britain leaving this war. So Britain just joined it to leave. But by the time they return, this is a front. But they manage to move in and take St. Petersburg. And they move in towards Moscow on this front, and then they move in from here. As they create an encirclement, a massive one. And well, then they use this to move into Moscow and take it. With that failing, they move down to the Ukrainian border. And at this point, before they can take Volgograd, a peace treaty is signed. So let's see the Gulf of Finland and the Baltic Sea and the Strait here in Copenhagen. And they also have Britain beat in naval forces. And they also beat Russia with their expansion all around the Baltic Sea and even having coastal access to the ocean. And well, that's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, and not only subscribe. Bye, guys!